Hi there, YouTubers. I just want to say that I want to show you how easy it is to make a beef broth. And I'll tell you a story about why I needed to make a beef broth. I used to travel a lot for my work, like 7 months out of the year, easy, living in a hotel room. And you know, they had little gyms and stuff, and I used to work out. And then one day I told my wife, I said, oh, my joints really hurt a lot, I don't know why, because I haven't done anything. But, you know, found out later it could be anything at all. So, she suggested a beef broth. And I'm like, what, a beef broth? Like, what's that going to do, right? So, anyway, she said, go out and get some, the joints of cows and make a broth out of it. So she sent me a link to a broth, and I'll attach it here too. And I went out and I bought a small cooker, a little smaller than this, for the hotel room. And I'm pretty sure I left it in the hotel room. So anyway, so I put this beef broth together, and surprise, surprise, like after the second serving and the second day, all my joints stopped hurting. Boom, that quickly. So I thought, geez, there's something here, right? Anyway, so I encourage everybody to do this. Best to take your beef broth on an empty stomach. So what I was doing was I was dieting anyway, and I was mainly having like an egg breakfast, no bacon or anything like that, just eggs and toast, and that's on a good day. Some days I'd skip that. So basically I was doing like green juicing, and I'd have a beef broth. And it was really shocking how good it was for me. So anyway, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make, because I'm not a cooking guy. I think one of the main reasons I got married is because I can't cook, right? But doing this broth is so simple. You need a cooker. So you can see this is one of the cheapest cookers you can buy. There's nothing fancy on it. We're going to use the low setting. You're going to need to go and get organic food if you can. So I've got some organics here. So what you're going to need is, and you can vary this recipe how much you want to for yourself, right? So if you feel like you like more carrots in it or whatever, you just put more carrots in it. So you're going to need a couple of organic carrots. You got to scrub these down. And then you're going to just chop them all up. But I'm not going to insult everyone's intelligence, like if I can figure out how to do this and I'm not a cook, you know. So you just take a really stiff brush, and then underwater you just scrub it, and then you chop it up in little pieces. No big deal. Right? And then you're going to need some celery. Now, when we buy our organic celery, they come in this bag, and then they're like half the size of the other celery and twice the price, which is trying to encourage us to eat the crappy stuff. Also, you don't get leaves on this, and you can leave the leafy part into your broth, no problem. You're going to need some garlics. Right, you're going to need about 7 cloves of garlic. You're going to need onions. Just one medium-sized onion. I think that's about a medium right there. You're going to need about 3, it says on the recipe, 3.5 pounds of grass-fed beef bones. But I'm going to show you how I do it. I just make sure that the bottom of this is lined with beef bones. That's good enough for me. Then the dried bay leaves. Okay, so you're going to need a bottle. They're real cheap. you're going to throw a couple of those in there. Sometimes I have 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. And then what you're going to need is kosher salt. Can't be any other salt. It's got to be the kosher salt. And as you learn more about salts, you'll discover that different salts do different things to food and you. So if it calls for kosher salt, use kosher salt, and it does. This stuff here, table salt, you can get, table salt. This is good to cover the driveway with in the winter, to melt the ice. Other than that, it's not good for much. Next, you're going to need some apple cider vinegar, and the best kind you can get is from Bragg, right? And it comes with mother. That's what you want to look for. It's unfiltered, raw, and it comes with mother. Now, see here, it's got the no GMO sticker on it. So you'll see at the bottom, it forms a little layer on the bottom of this jar. So what you want to do is you want to shake it really well when you use it, so that, see how it's starting to disappear? All of that goes away and mixes in with the vinegar. Okay, so once you got all these ingredients, just a matter of washing them all up, chopping them all up, and then putting them into the cooker. So I'll be right back. I'm going to clean up the carrots, chop them up, chop these up, and I'll show you a little trick I do for chopping up onions, because it can really get you tearing up. And the garlic I love to do because I love the smell of garlic, so piece of cake with the garlic. Anyway, be right back. Okay, so I've taken 2½ carrots, chopped them all up, cleaned the carrot off. But I don't peel the carrots like it suggests. I like the peeling of the carrot. I think there's nutrients in there. And there's the celery. Now I use 3 of these stalks and not 2, because we don't get the leafy part when we buy organic here, and it's half the size. So that's what I've already done. I've already peeled my onion, cut the ends off, and I'm ready to chop up my onion. A trick my brother showed me to chop up onions so you don't start crying and stuff is that every time you slice the onion, blow on the onion. So the little droplets that come off the onion won't go into your eyes. Okay, I got the onions done, and now I'm going to do the garlic. Now, it calls for 7 cloves of garlic, but I think they anticipate you having the small cloves. These are pretty huge, and if I put 7 of these in there, I don't think my wife's going to drink any of this soup or broth. So I keep calling it soup. She keeps saying, "Oh, it's broth." Okay, whatever. It's soup without the stuff. Anyway. So the way I do it is, and I'm doing this in case people are like me and they're not cooks. I'm sure there's other ways to do this stuff. But there's a peeling on a garlic clove. I just squeeze on it with a knife until the garlic clove splits open, and then the skin just falls right off of the clove. With the smaller cloves it works way better because you can squish it right down, but these cloves here, they seem to be really, really tough. A lot stronger than a normal garlic. So there we are. Got your garlic clove, and then you just chop it up. Because the whole point of chopping up all these vegetables is to give it more surface area so that all of the nutrients can be removed from it much better. So if we have really big chunks, I don't think the nutrients will come out of the deeper pieces. So anyway, I'm going to do this to, I think I got 5 garlic cloves here, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I got everything put away now. I've got the crock pot ready, and I was just about to put the garlic in the fridge. Apparently, this is not the right thing to do, and it gives me the shivers to think, imagine if I'd have done that. You're supposed to put them in some sort of garlic container We used to keep them just in the counter there. We have a special drawer on the front of our cupboards for this sort of thing. But anyway, just to keep my wife happy, I'm going to put them in here. I usually put them in the fridge, but she says you can't do that. I have no idea why not. But if they make a thing for garlic, maybe you're supposed to put them in here. I don't know. Anyway, I got everything ready to go. I got my meat. Now, because I have, I'm trying to stop my joints from hurting. I did this out when I was in Edmonton. So in Edmonton, it was really easy to find grass-fed cows because that's all they got. The butcher here couldn't guarantee grass-fed to me, but what I was looking for was meat with the knuckles or the joints, right? And I don't care, there's a lot of meat on here, right? So I'm going to just drop that in here, and I'm going to line the bottom, another nice big joint right there. I'm going to line the bottom with that, and it's really shocking to me. There's a piece for my dog right there. Right? It's really shocking that she's not running into the kitchen right now. She could probably smell this. So I'm just going to line the bottom with pieces. I guess I'll have to use this one. Okay. And there, I got enough for another one a little later. So as soon as this is done. Now, this takes quite a while to do. So I do this first. Then I'm going to take the kosher salt, and I'm going to add 2 teaspoons. Now, you guys have to be aware, like, I'm a man cooking who doesn't cook, so I use what they call a teaspoon. People who are really anal about their cooking, they're going to use specially measured devices. Okay, I'm back. So, specially measured devices. So you have a device like this. So, and this was just a bigger one for tablespoons, teaspoons, or whatever they are. Tablespoons and teaspoons. So this one's for teaspoons, and I need 2 teaspoons. Now, I'm going to tell you about the salt. When I was making this, I didn't want, let's say you don't want your blood pressure to go up. Just put maybe half a teaspoon of salt in there, and then add your own salt to your own preference before you take the broth. I found that's the best way. I really found it super salty putting in 2 teaspoons of salt. I was like, oh my gosh, I could sure feel and taste the salt. So I'm just going to, for me, I'm just going to put 1 teaspoon in here. And I'll show you the special way you're supposed to do this. Of course, being a man, you know, I just use a teaspoon. But trying to make this video right, so here we go. Oops, don't want to do it over that. Just want to fill this up, and then what you're going to do is you're going to scrape off the top, right? So I can do that in a bowl, but really I just poured it in the spoon when I was in the hotel room. So there you go, kind of like make it all nice and level. And there you go. You would do this twice if you love salt. I'm not a big fan of salt. So I'm just sprinkling it everywhere. Alright, and to me that's still a lot of salt. Now I'm just looking at my laptop because I'm on the website. So, they're not telling you on a website exactly how to do this, except they say put the salt last. I like to put the salt first, and I like to do the apple cider vinegar first. So with the apple cider vinegar, we're going to need tablespoons, but you can't use this device because this is not for liquid, right? It's just made for solids. So anyway, whoever doesn't like this, you're going to have to get over it. I'm just going to shake this up and make sure the bottom's all nice and clear. And I'm going to put 2 of these tablespoons of apple cider vinegar right in here. Yeah, it doesn't have to be right on. Now what the apple cider vinegar does is it allows all the nutrients out of the vegetables and the cartilage of the bone and the bone marrow and all that stuff to get pulled out and placed into the water. Okay, and these bay leaves, I like to put them now in here because they tend to want to float around. So you can put they say 2, but it depends on the way you buy these things. Like there's different sizes. So I'll put a few in there. Doesn't matter, you're not going to eat them anyway. But it does help the flavor. So I've got the salt, the vinegar, the bay leaves. And now I'm just going to add the rest of my vegetables that I've prepared. Just dump them right in there. Oops. And the carrots. So you see, for this cooker, it's almost full. Now when I had a cooker half this size, I just did half the ingredients, right? So it worked out pretty good. Now, I'm not keen on using tap water because tap water has all kinds of chemicals in it. And if you're worried about your health because you're doing this, the last thing you want are chemicals, right? So the reason I'm using all organic and everything, I just don't want chemicals. So what I did was I went out and got some distilled water. So I'm going to top this up because I can see where the lid goes. And I just want to top it up just below the lid. It's not going to boil or anything like that. So I'm just going to top that up. And I don't have to worry about stirring it for a while. Like, I don't even recall ever stirring it. I guess, except for the anticipation of eating it. Because it gets to smell really good in the house. So there you go. Slow cookers are ready to go. Just plug it in. Put it out of the way. Put it on low. And you're done. And what I'm going to do is it suggests leaving it there for 8 to 10 hours. So when I was in the hotel room, I would prepare it at night, and then I would, when I left for work, I would just turn it on low. And when I came home from work for supper, it would be done. But what we're doing here when we do slow cooking like this is we're essentially letting the cooker do all our digestive work, right? So with the vinegar and the salt and everything, it's pulling all the nutrients out of everything, and it's putting it into the water, and it's doing all your digestion for you. So what we're going to be left with is just a liquid. And when you drink that liquid down, it's going to go straight into your bloodstream, and your body's not going to have to do any digestion. It's going to go very well. Works really sweet. Anyway, I hope this helps. I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'll finish the video tomorrow when I show you what to do with the rest of it and how it looks at the end when it's all done. Okay? Hi there. Well, it's the next day. It's almost 24 hours. Longest I've ever done a beef broth. Usually I do the 8 hours and that's enough. But what the heck, I had time. Anyway, it's all done. Just turn it off. And I don't know if you can see it, but I only stirred it once. Didn't really have to stir it. And everything's nice and golden. So what this is really doing is it's digesting your food for you, right? So that the liquid, the water, is has absorbed all the nutrients. So what you're going to need is a strainer and something to put it in. Now, if you're going to eat this right away, you might want to put it in a pot. But we usually put in one of these, and then we'll take out what we need when we need it, and then we'll put that in a pot and heat it up again. So I'm just going to start scooping all this off. It's a shame, but all this vegetable and stuff, that's all going into the garbage. That I had a hard time with when I first started doing this. And then I tried to think of ways of cooking or making food out of all this. And it started tasting like crap. So I guess once all the flavor has been removed from it or whatever. Anyway, so this is a little piece of meat. I'm going to save all the meaty pieces for my dog. I suppose if you're a meat eater, like we try to avoid meat, but if you like meat, you might want to eat this. But if you're doing bone broth, chances are that eating dairy products like meat, cheese, and milk and all that stuff, this probably puts you in the situation that you're in, that you need to do a beef broth. Now you don't have to do this with beef, you can do this with chicken or whatever. I think the best would be like deer meat or moose meat, something wild. And the guys I talk to, the farmers I know, the hunters I know, they throw away all the knuckles and stuff. They just like the meat. So I'm going to try to convince them to save them for me. And you can see that all I'm doing is I'm separating all of the vegetables from the broth. And then I'm going to use these tongs here and see if I can pick up the big bones. So you can see the bones right there. The meat's just going to fall right off of that. And it doesn't matter how hard the meat was, it's going to be super tender right now. Super tender. So I'm going to let that cool. I'll give it to my dog. She doesn't like the bones too much, but all the meat and fat, she just loves. So let's get rid of that. And I'm pretty sure I had a few big pieces in here. There we are. So you can see the meat just falls right off the bone. The dog's going to love that. I'm going to let it cool. And she's not stupid, like she won't eat it if it's hot. Not like us, eh? Burning our mouths on pizzas or whatever. Okay, so there we are. Nice big chunk there. And there. And she's kind of funny because she doesn't even mind if there's a couple of vegetables in there. But I'm not going to give her one of these leaves. Because I'm pretty sure bay leaves aren't good for us either. There we are. That's almost it with the bones. Nice big bone there. Well, she's a selfish dog, so she could eat all this meat and still want to eat supper. There, I think I got it all. And so what you do is you empty this whole dang thing right in here. Oh, another big chunk of meat right there. And what you're left with is a nice broth. And we're not done yet. I have to, yeah, that's what I thought. You know, I thought, geez, all I have to do is separate this, and then there's no problem. Well, what's not written in the instructions is how to get rid of the fat, because I don't want this beef fat in my body, because as it cools it starts to get hard. So I don't need that causing any problems. And you can see it's separating out nicely, eh? So I'm going to just dump the rest right in here. So I'm going to just grab this towel and the glove. Okay, so you would think that we're done. Well, we're not. So there's all the vegetables left over, and that's got to go in the garbage. And I'm sure somebody out there is thinking, oh, I'd never throw that in the garbage, I'd eat it. But chances are, if you're doing a beef broth, you are probably not wanting solids in your body, because you're healing from something. And the whole point of this is we did the digestion for the body, so the body would be getting rid of this anyway as your poop, and this would go into your blood. Right? So that's the whole point of this. Now we have to take the fat out of here. And my wife showed me a really cool way to do it. Now when I was in Edmonton, when the temperatures were like negative 35 Celsius, I would just stick this outside on my balcony. And just wait a while, and the ice would form on top of it. This is the ice out of my ice maker. So you can see all the fats floating on top of this. I don't know if you can see it, but trust me, it is. And I don't like to eat that. So my wife showed me this. It's really cool. You just take a whole bunch of ice and drop it on top. Just dump it on top. And then what happens is the fat will start to solidify around the ice cubes. And you should really see that. I'm going to take the camera and let you see how it looks. First time I seen this, I thought it was pretty cool. So, you see there, the fat's building up all around the ice. So I'm going to leave this ice sit there. I don't want to disturb it. And the fat floats to the top of the water, or the broth. And then the ice is going to make it, see here, it's all hard. The fat's already starting to get hard here. It's already starting to get hard. You know, what a great idea, eh? Get rid of all this here fat. It's awesome. So I'm just going to let that cool. That's already cool to the touch, which is pretty good. And now I'm going to scrape all the ice off and try to get this fat out of my broth, because I don't want that inside my blood. Because that's what it would do, right? It would solidify like that, because your body's not hot enough to keep it liquefied. So it would start to get hard like that and clog up your arteries and everything else. You know, that's another reason we don't eat much meat around here. Anyway, so I'll just go back to scooping some of this off now. I think all the fat's getting pretty much hardened. I think it's all done. And you'll know because the broth is going to be really cool. Okay, so right now it's almost the same temperature as I am. Okay, so I'm back. Now what I want to do is get rid of all this ice. And one of the ways that I did it before was I used to use a smaller strainer, something like this, right? And I'd scoop the ice out and the fat with that. But we're going to throw this out anyway, so I'm just going to scoop it right into here. Well, you can see all of the fat is stuck right to the ice. And there you go. Now, I think I'm going to do it one more time, just to make sure. It's all stuck to the ice cubes. So this is the way I used to do it, is I just I think that's all of it. So now we're ready to go and have our bone broth. So I would take this, put it into a pot, and then heat it up. But right now I'm going to take and put it in mason jars, because it's way easier to store in the fridge. Well, we'll see how much that fills up. Mason jar. Anyway, you don't have to see how that's done. I'm going to pour it in the mason jar, store it in the fridge, and we'll have soup whenever we need it. The fat's still sticking to the cold Tupperware container here. So, it's all good. Really hope this helped everybody. I'm not a cook, and I can do this. So, anybody can do it. Now I got to clean up everything. Anyway, hope this video helped. Bye.